Hi guys, thanks for the audio check. I'm Kevin Mirko, CEO here at CoinMetro. This is our weekly AMA. As usual, it's 5 p.m. on Friday, so here we go. Give me a quick audio check on YouTube if you could, and we'll move forward. We're not on Facebook this week. The software we use called XSplit, unfortunately, has some type of issue, a patch issue with Facebook, and we're not able to broadcast on Facebook. So, YouTube only. We're good to go. Harold, thank you for letting us know that the audio works. I'm going to jump right in. We follow a set schedule here. Well, I try to follow a set schedule here. First items up on the schedule usually each week is to go over the crypto news from this following week. They're just news articles that were curated by guys on Reddit, and I'm usually pass them about 30 minutes before we go live. And so I have them here on my desktop, so I'm just going to go down the list. First on the agenda, Intercontinental Exchange, which is the guys behind New York Stock Exchange, for example, announced Bakkt, a global platform and ecosystem for digital assets. That's B-A-K-K-T, Bakkt. Not too much news here. I know people who picked this news story are probably wondering what it means for CoinMetro in terms of market adoption, what it means utilization, and our ability to pull in clients. I think what people need to understand, when you look at normalized financial market, you have exchanges like the New York Stock Exchange, like NASDAQ, like the FTSE, like the CAC, etc. around the world. When you think of an exchange in those in those terms, you think of one place where there's a centralized price for a certain asset, usually that's a stock. And then you have brokers who provide access to those stocks or price those stocks from or through or via the exchange. Eventually, crypto will get to that point. So we call ourselves an exchange right now. All the other exchanges call themselves an exchange. That term is used because, well, it's the easiest way to describe what we do to other people that don't necessarily understand let's say finance or crypto in general. If they don't understand the asset that you're trading, you definitely don't want to confuse them with terminology they're not going to understand. The point is that we call it that because you exchange. You take one asset, fiat currency, and you exchange it, or digital currency, whatever, and you exchange it to another digital crypto or fiat currency. And that's why we call it an exchange. But in reality, we are not exchanges. We're more akin to what would be a broker. So at some point, you will have centralized exchanges where most assets will initially onboard. Now, it really depends on how fast we see some of these exchanges growing, these current exchanges grow, who will control different regions of the world. It's a reason why most people that have heard me talk, unfortunately, over the past few months, or several months, or 8 months, whatever we are now, 9 months, can remember that I've spoken before, and even in our white paper, it touches on the fact that we want to be number one in different regions of the world before we try to attack globally. The reason for that is if we can become number one in the Baltics, we may then become an actual exchange in the Baltics, where companies that go through an ICO process in the Baltics end up getting listed on our exchange, and we then resell access to those exchange-traded assets to other brokers and other exchanges around the world. And that same thing can happen in other regions like Asia Pacific, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There will be, for instance, Coinbase would be the perfect probably platform for the US if you really want to talk about utilization, to probably partner with an exchange in the US like Intercontinental Exchange, who runs the New York Stock Exchange, among other exchanges around the world. So I don't really read too much into this. One, they're announcing it. Between announcement and launch, I guarantee there's going to be a nice pocket of time. Plus, they still need regulation. There still is not one piece of regulation within the U.S. Specifically that talks about any way to list or delist tokens. There is guidance. There is no regulation. That regulation would need to come for someone like the New York Stock Exchange to formalize and finalize this process. But overall, it's good news. It means that those guys see the light, and I'm sure they saw the light before, but publicly now they're saying they see the light. The big thing about mass adoption is you need the public to understand what you're doing, and you need them to like it. And the fact that someone that they know, the New York Stock Exchange, is getting involved makes them understand it a bit more and may make them like it a bit more. And anything that leads to adoption is good for everybody in the industry. Number two, SEC delays, pun intended. I don't know who wrote pun intended there because it's not really a pun, but I get it, delay. I got it. decision on Bitcoin ETF, price takes another plunge. We've talked about this a bit as well. So yeah, they delayed till September 30th, the decision on this new ETF to be launched. The launching of ETFs will not correlate to higher prices when you really talk from a foundation standpoint. The fundamental around that, the news release will push retail investors perhaps to buy, which will give us a bump in price. But the fact that these ETFs are adding, let's say, unmeasurable, at least initially, amount of liquidity into the market, and we're not adding an unmeasurable amount of demand, does not correlate to higher prices. So I just don't want everybody to get on that horse that they think, oh my God, all these ETFs are coming, price is going to go to 180,000, and I'm going to recoup all my losses, get 6 Lamborghinis, buy a few mansions, get a lot of girls in bikinis, and throw a big party, because that's generally not going to happen. But SEC delay, yeah, run the course. That's the SEC delays. That's a regulator's delay. It's kind of part of their MO, so to speak. But just be cautious. Don't start buying a bunch of Bitcoin right around a very public date where it may or may not be launched. Not the best investment strategy. Number 3 on my list, Bettergram, crypto version of Telegram with price checker integrated. CM to trial this. First time I've heard about Bettergram. A little bit of insider knowledge for everybody. When I get these lists, I never ever read the stories. Most of them I have read previously, and not the exact story that's being posted on Reddit, but I've read on some other news source. Sometimes the same story, a lot of times not. But I usually go off of the titles, and I usually know what the story is. I don't necessarily read the story. So I haven't heard of Bettergram yet. Bettergram, I guess from a marketing standpoint, good name. I was in London on Tuesday. I sat down in a round table, literally, with a bunch of different people in the space, from the founders of Rootstock to different founders from different companies around the table. Some people that deal with NGOs, some people that deal with commercial enterprises, guys that have worked for different financial companies like Saxo Bank and other banks, guys that are trying to create banks for the crypto industry and having some success, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and guys in different stages. One guy that has coached Fortune 100 companies and banks and executive teams for years and is now involved in crypto as well. Point is that at that meeting, one of those individuals has a product that's ready for release that basically is something like a WeChat and a Telegram mixed together. What I'm saying is that you can send money, either send fiat and exchange it immediately to crypto and send crypto to anyone in your chat list, or vice versa, fiat to fiat, crypto to fiat, fiat to crypto, whatever. You can send money back and forth instantly. It has a very clean UI. There's also a way to kind of merge in other communities from Telegram and other places into the app. I expressed the fact that I might want to white label this and do a test case initially in Estonia and then kind of release it along with our own community integration inside our exchange and our trading platform. So that conversation yet hasn't gone to the next level, but we were both very interested in making this work. So I'll have a look at Bettergram. Maybe it's better. We'll have a check, but community is going to be a big piece of that exchange and that trading platform. So if this can do something better or something more than we can't do with another option, then it's something I'll have a look at. Number 4 on my list, Opera to integrate crypto wallets into their desktop browser. Great for Opera. Google Chrome obviously already has some extensions and some that work for like MetaMask and things like that. We're generally seeing a slow trickle effect of adoption. Technical adoption at a technical level, technical companies adopting isn't really big news because, they're willing to take the risk because they're only taking a technical risk. They're not taking a financial risk. So not huge news, and Opera obviously is not the number 1 browser, nowhere near the number 1 browser. Most people that use it are already kind of techie. So the fact that the techie browser has now released a techie update, not really all that newsworthy. But it's good to hear because, like I said, like I always say, any good news, any news about progression and adoption is a good thing in this industry. So SALT, number 5 on my list, SALT expanding to more U.S. states. So again, we have a story about a company that's expanding, that's broadening their horizon, that's moving in. Let's see, I'm gonna actually look at this news story right now. 35 states. So if you don't know, or if you do know, just to recap, in the U.S. there's no regulation on a national level. And when it comes to cryptocurrency, it hasn't yet been adopted as a future, which I think it will be. But up to this point, it hasn't happened by the CTFC, meaning that it's state by state regulation. So in order to push into one state to the next, you have to follow the state regulations in that state. It can be quite cumbersome and it's very expensive. So unless your key focus is the U.S., it can be a bad move to move into the U.S. until you're ready, because it means bleeding quite a lot of money. It's telling me we lost connection to YouTube. Let's see here. Oh, no, we're still good. Okay. Sorry, guys. Okay, so just gonna do this 1 second. So salt. So yeah, I would say salt is a not that unique of a concept, but it's a unique use of crypto. It's one of the first loan platforms. I believe it's peer-to-peer loans, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a unique application of traditional finance onto the blockchain, which I've talked about immensely as well. We're not going to get anywhere by simply trying to innovate, disrupt, innovate the disruption, and disrupt the innovation. The only way we're really going to be able to move forward with mass adoption is by taking already known and already understood traditional finance products and applying them to blockchain and crypto. So hats off to Salt for doing that. I'm glad somebody did it, because loans can be quite a tricky business. And hats off to them for moving to 35 states. They have another 15 to go. And then they need to go global. So still a lot on their desk, so to speak. Point being here is that it's expansion, and it's good. It's bringing more focus into what, like I said, what would be traditional financial, showing how the blockchain and how crypto can streamline traditional financial products. Because a lot of people at the banks and the regulators don't see how blockchain and crypto can be beneficial. They say they do topically, but in reality, they really don't dig much deeper than that. And this is going to help them understand, so it helps all of us that need to go in front of these regulators and these banks. So thumbs up to Salt. Number 6 on my list, South Korea. Police raids firm whose alleged crypto scam promised investors shipwrecked gold. I didn't catch that, ICO. That would have been an interesting one. Good on the police. Look, when there's good actors, it's good that the good actors get press. Bad actors getting press is not usually a good thing, because, again, when you have a soapbox like getting a lot of press and it's bad news, it sheds a bad light on the entire industry. But when a bad actor actually has some repercussions for being a bad actor and it gets press, it's a very good thing, because hopefully it slows down the amount of other bad actors that try to steal people's money in this industry, because there's some type of repercussion. So good on the South Korean police force. Hats off to them. Guys, just a word of advice, generally speaking, to people who invest in anything online. Shipwreck gold is probably, when you see that, what you should read there is kind of run away fast and hide. Excavations tend to cost a lot of money, but they're always funded with private money. I've never seen an IPO or anything of a company that looks for shipwreck gold. If it sounds kind of a little bit crazy, sometimes it is. That doesn't, innovation can sound crazy, but do your homework is what I'm trying to say. Make sure you do your homework, please. Number 7 on the list, baseball crypto collectibles partnership. So I'm actually going to have to open this link, because I'm not quite sure what to comment on this one. So the MLB Players Association inks a partnership with crypto collectibles startup AMP or AMP. The crypto collectible idea, I like it and I don't like it. I do think it's rather unique. I think it's hype driven, which is great for this market right now. It's unique in the fact that when, let's say, naysayers of crypto come on and say that there's no intrinsic value and that blah, 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 there's no use case. This is kind of a very novelty use case, but it's something that a lot of people that may not be geeks or tech savvy or generally speaking interested in macro and micro finance and logistics inside a distributed ledger or whatever, can get around the fact of collecting small little digital collectibles, I don't know, little cute looking kittens or whatever nonsense. So I think it's unique. I think it's kind of cool. I tend to think it's probably still in the fad realm, but I think it could be something that takes off. And I even think that CoinMetro will probably at some point have some type of digital collectible, whether that be some type of emoji or something. We'll probably venture down that road because it's great for branding. So MLB Players Association, a little bit of branding probably never hurt. A sport that's rather slow and dull to watch, that has to compete now with high-paced sports like extreme sports and F1, Formula Racing, and now rugby coming to the U.S., etc. Baseball probably having quite a tough time to retain viewership, and they're hoping that getting into this might help. I think it's probably a shot in the dark and a Hail Mary, but for branding, I think it could be cool. So we'll see what happens. I'd love to come back in a year on this or 2 years on this and see if it actually made any difference for the MLB in general and Major League Baseball. But we'll see. Number 8 on my list of 9, co-founder of Expanse Cryptocurrency says Binance quoting 400 BTC for listing. Well, Jesus, I've talked about this to death. I guess the co-founder of Expanse has never joined one of my AMAs. Maybe he should have. So Binance, CEO of Binance, very smart guy on a technical standpoint. I would say he's smarter on the tech than I am. I'd give him that on any day. But when it comes to regulation acumen, and probably general financial business acumen, Binance is lacking a bit in those areas. And you can see that when an interview that was done on CNBC. They said that they don't actually ask for money. They have a question on their application that simply says, "How much would you be willing to donate to Binance once you are listed?" Donate, I believe, is the actual word, which should make you giggle a bit when you hear it. So yeah, they asked 2.6 million. Now Binance has said they don't ask. He's saying they ask. So let's see who actually comes out on top. I would say they probably asked, and it's probably because obviously the CEO of Binance doesn't probably answer emails about listings anymore. So probably one of his staff asked, and then maybe they committed a cardinal sin by asking rather than saying, "How much would you like to donate?" But yeah, that's where Binance makes its money, folks. Lots of wash trading on Binance, lots and lots of wash trading. Multitudes of their volumes are wash trades, meaning that a buy and sell order are placed with zero spread, with no commission, and they fill each other. So fake trades, essentially. Not saying that Binance does this all on their own, but they allow clients to do it as well, and they have no way to price discovery. There's no price discovery that stops this, which in a regulated environment would be illegal and be immediately stopped. Fortunately, they happen to be in Malta, who could give a rat's you-know-what about what they're doing, and is just running a PR push right now. And they're doing a very good job of it. A blockchain island and all that stuff. Great for PR. But I think this should show you, just this one story, whether it's 100% true or not, should shed some light on why serious companies that want to be under serious regulation aren't going to Malta. Number 9, Coinbase, no more clearing times after purchase, daily limit raised to 25K. Just going to look at this real quick because I read a similar article, but I just want to see purchase. I'm assuming that's purchase of cryptocurrency. I just want to make sure this has nothing to do with any type of merchant. Yeah, okay. So buy and sell immediately. Okay, that I would say that initially they didn't offer that mainly for security risk, probably because they were unsure if their software would be able to keep track of all these immediate buy and sells, and they didn't want to have an accounting nightmare on their hands where they were crediting people, maybe double crediting, triple crediting, or not crediting at all. So something we will have basically from day one. I think it's important, especially when it's internal. When you run an internal book where you're matching orders, it should be immediate, period. Now, deposit and withdrawal can have a slight delay so that things can be manually verified, or at least digitally verified to make sure that the trade actually occurred. And I'm talking about a delay of minutes, not much longer than that. But good on Coinbase progressing with the tech. It obviously shows that they are now confident in their tech, and more than that, the regulators that actually oversee them are confident in their tech, and that could also be a reason why they weren't immediate in the first place. They could have been asked by regulators. They could have been asked by banks to make sure that they manually verified these things. And the fact that they don't have to anymore is good. It means that the regulator and the banks are starting to understand their business model and their tech, and that their tech works. So good on them for that. Before I get on these Reddit questions, I just see a few things popping into YouTube, and I want to address them before they get lost in the clutter. So give me a second while I open up YouTube in another browser, because unfortunately right here on our live chat, it's difficult to keep track because the screen size can be quite small. So I'm just going to open it up here so I can scroll through. Give me 1 second. I saw a few questions come up, and I just want, like I said, I want to address them before they get lost in the shuffle. So Jet Fuel 12, hi Kevin, do you think it would be a bad idea to go live and min XCM in this bearish market? Yes and no. You're always going to have cycles, bearish, bullish, bearish, bullish, bearish, bullish, whatever. If you're sitting waiting for the perfect time to do anything in life or business, you will never do it. There's never a perfect time. There's always a reason not to do something. So I generally, for me, the reason why we haven't minted yet is, one, on a regulatory standpoint. It gives us some more freedom on a regulatory standpoint, allows us to get all of our ducks in a row, etc. Second reason is I don't want the secondary market to be able to pick up too much of XCM trading, at least initially. And that's more of a commercial side, to be honest. And I want to have the ability to be able to track most of the trading, because it's going to help us with some analytics down the road. And three, obviously we want to create a bit of a hype cycle before we do so. So those are the three reasons, meaning that we want the platform 100% ready. We want to be able to create a hype cycle around some news announcements, etc. And we have a few juicy news announcements actually today, which we'll get to later, so stick tuned for that. Some very, very, very important announcements that most players in this industry haven't been able to do yet. So, and we're not even started yet. So we'll get to those later. Pedro, similar to Jet Fuel 12, I guess, but how do you feel about releasing the exchange so close to ETF ruling, assuming they don't delay it again? Doesn't affect me whatsoever. I could care less about that ETF ruling. I think it will literally change nothing about our current market. One synthetic product released into a market will change nothing. It will create a bit of fundamentals, which means you will get some news. You will get retail players coming to the market and buying off that news. But I bet you see institutional level selling right off the top of that buying. So we may hit 8K, may hit 9K again, I don't know. But you will probably see institutional selling right back down to similar levels where we sit now, perhaps a bit higher. It's not something that's going to transform the market. The other questions, okay, Juan and MPD83, I'll get back to you guys once I go through Reddit, okay? I'm going to go on to the Reddit questions that we had, and then we'll get on to a quick update, which is an exciting one, I'll tell you that. And then we'll run into live questions. I do have a time limit today. I do have to be off by 6 today. I have a call with a liquidity provider actually at 6 o'clock that I have to be on. So we have 35 minutes. I think we're going pretty well. We should hit our time. So I'm going to try to get through these Reddit questions in about 15 minutes, which will leave us a good 20 minutes for live questions. So number one on the list from Reddit's Minier Men says, hey Kevin, I love the exchange is turning out right now, but there's one thing that smells fishy to me. Why have another flash sale if you believe in your business so much? It shows that you clearly don't have enough faith that if you launch the exchange, you will generate enough revenue and profits to run the exchange for longer than 18 months. This in itself makes the price of XCM take a huge dump, because you are clearly showing investors that the CEO of the business is uncertain. It doesn't matter how you justify this decision. Integrity will be lost and people will make conclusions. In the end, the exchange will be worse off. I think this ruins the free market aspect of XCM trading, and you are not letting the market decide when the price should be, what the price should be, which will eventually lead to an even bigger dump. If people who want to buy during the flash sale want to get more XCM, they are free to do so through the exchange and name their own price as they are with any other token, aka this is intervening with the free market price adjustments. The more negative interventions for an asset, the worse off the asset will be. But if crypto or stocks, just my experience. Okay, so obviously the general question there relates around why, and I guess my opinion, or at least my counter opinion on why I think most of those opinions expressed there are false, at least for me. So I'll go one by one if I can. So appreciate the first sentence. I appreciate the whole question, but appreciate the first sentence, how the exchange is going. I think we're moving in the right direction, and we're gradually gaining speed, and I like where we're headed as well. And that'll tie into an update we have after these Reddit questions. So why have another flash sale if I believe in the business? I wholeheartedly believe in this business. I wholeheartedly believe in this business. I wouldn't be here doing this if I didn't. I'm sure the owners of Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, Tesla all wholeheartedly believe in their businesses. And they've all done multiple rounds of fundraising and sold multiple types of preference A, B, C, and D class stocks over the course of the time that they've run their business. This is normal. You can never say with a business that you want to scale, what if, or if I need money at some point. You will always need capital, always. Even companies that are the size of Amazon and Apple will take out bridge loans to pay salaries, to finance projects because they have money tied up in other things, because they have minimum capital that they need to hold in multiple countries, because they have because they're hedged against different risks, et cetera, because money's cheap. Now, that's from a loan perspective, money's cheap. It's getting a little more expensive now. From an ICO perspective, the money is free. And if you want me to put my commercial hat on, which I'll do right now, well, imaginary. I'll give you the little. There's my commercial hat. It's free money. There's literally no reason, and I'll come to your market, the ideas you have around market supply and demand, etc., in a second. But when money's cheap as a loan, you take it sometimes when you don't truly even need it, because it's almost free money. That's what that's what you'll hear corporate guys saying. Well, it's free money. It's almost free money. Why wouldn't we take it? Here we're talking about generally free money, and you're getting a larger user base. So from a commercial standpoint, there's absolutely no reason not to do it. Now, a lot of your assumptions here correlate supply and demand into the actual value of the token. Right? Now, dumping, right? So the act of someone selling off because they lost interest or that is going to happen regardless. Whether we do a sale or not, it will happen. Now, you assume that the people that want to buy are going to mitigate that dump because there's enough demand in the people who want to buy versus how many people may want to sell. That's definitely speculation, and it's something that I can't measure, and neither can you. You may be right, you may be wrong, but the point is that it's not guaranteed that you're right. So we know that price will be affected initially by people selling, 100%. It wouldn't have mattered if we had stuck to our initial roadmap 100%. It wouldn't have mattered if we went way off the roadmap. Once a product is launched, we're ready to go, we have a product, we release the token, people will sell, guaranteed. And unless we create that hype cloud, the same hype cloud we need to create in order to do another flash sale, and we're again, that we will do more than likely anyway, though the flash sale does help to create more hype in reality, then the price is going to fall regardless. And supply and demand are not a 100% correlation here. It's really all about hype. At some point, supply and demand will be one of the major movers of tokens once they become a more regulated environment, once liquidity becomes in here, once we have underwriting, once we have all the things that we have in, let's say, current markets, you will start to see more of an overlap. We don't see that overlap right now. So it's all about hype. And I think the sale at some level does help with hype. And why not just allow them to buy into the market? Well, there's obviously a reason to run a flash sales to get more capital. And it's not because I don't trust in the business. It's because I know from experience and from looking at smarter business people than I am and looking at the history of just corporate enterprise worldwide, there is never a moment in a company's history where they won't need or desire more capital. More capital allows you to do more things. In a regulated environment, look, right now, because of, let's say, current crypto rates, because of overhead, because of many different things, we're not able to go to 7 different or 8 different countries and apply for licensing. Not because we don't have the capabilities, because we don't have the money. They all require minimum capital. They all require minimum staff. They all require, and we can't do it. We can't do it because we don't have the capital. Now, what's better? What's better from an investor standpoint? An initial dump, but enough money to be able to go out and be the most licensed and most regulated crypto exchange in the most regions to tackle the most amount of clients and push the most adoption? Or a company with one license in one country of the world who mints their token and allows everybody to sell it, whose maybe the price only initially drops by 10 or 15 or 20% rather than 40 or whatever, eventually prices are going to correlate to the value of the business. That will happen once we start to see a more mature environment. And so at the end of the day, what you should care less about the initial dump, unless your whole goal was to just buy, get an ROI, and jump off. And if that's the case, you're going to sell regardless. You don't really care if there's a flash sale or there's not a flash sale. It's meaningless to you. You're gonna dump. Who cares about the hype? You're dumping. That's it. If you are somebody who basically is a seasoned investor and you're looking at the long term, what you're looking for at the end of the day is that the company is worth more money. And the way to get the company worth more money is to build a better foundation. The way you do that, unfortunately, is with more capital. So, again, a decision hasn't been made. I'm leaning towards having a flash sale. But it entails a lot of things. It entails the fact that we probably would have to run it out of Estonia, which means a whole different group set of documents, a whole different legal structure, etc. And that may not be possible, to be honest. And we'll see. Anyway, that's I think that covers most of your points. And I'm glad to rediscuss it anytime. Number 2 on my list, exotic macaron. Expanding upon a previous AMA question. Kevin, why don't you let current and potential contributors that want to buy and sell XCM do so by minting the tokens instead of making a new flash sale? This has been an added benefit of reasonably starting the vesting period early. I think I've already touched on this. As far as vesting, I have mentioned that the vesting process more likely will be altered a bit. I'm not going to eat up the entire amount, the entire time difference, but I think it will be adjusted a bit. Not an official statement yet, but that statement will come obviously before minting. I am aware, obviously, that guys committed to 6 months, and now obviously it's longer. So we still need to see some type of effect so we can control the in and out flows, at least initially. So there has to be some vesting, that's for sure. But we will look at how we can adjust that probably after the initial minting and launch. Number 3, go do 20 push-ups. Hey Kevin, if CoinMetro does another flash sale, lots of flash sale questions this week, you are basically screwing over everyone who bought an ICO. I wish you could expand on that, because I think the general idea there is because you don't understand market mechanics, but we'll move on. Is there really something you want to do in order to gain more money? Do you not believe that CoinMetro will be successful enough to stand? Again, it has nothing to do with success. You have to understand that exchanges don't make a lot of money on exchanging. Even the ones that charge 0.2%, most people are going to come with 100, 200, 300 euro or US dollars. They're going to exchange once or twice in their life, and they're out. When you take the average numbers around the industry for exchange products only, in and out exchange, especially for newbies, your income per user is about the same income that an airline makes per user, which is under 10 USD, far under 10 USD per user for a lifetime. When you tackle on that the regulatory costs of having to do KYC, AML, PEP, and sanction screenings, which can cost 4 to 5 euros, then on top of that, ongoing screening of every single transaction they do, which also carries a cost, what you find is that from the exchange side, there is a minimal amount of actual profitability. Initially, when you launch an exchange, most of your money is going to come from that exchange aspect, which means that you are not going to generate that much revenue. You need to have additional revenue streams. Ask Binance about their listing fees. I think we just discussed that. Don't think they do that because they're just the greediest sons of bitches in the world. They very well may be. But the reason they're doing that is because they need revenue, and they have no other opportunity for revenue. They don't cover margin trading. They have no other revenue streams built into they haven't acquired any companies with new revenue streams. Again, business acumen. I mean, that should be an alarm bell right there. But what you see a company that seems to be quite large, doing all kinds of volume, et cetera, but they make their money on listing fees. Because exchange is not where you make your money. It is a base. If you do it right, you make enough money to cover your costs. But you don't really see an extreme amount of revenue. So, especially with us, we're charging 0.1. We're giving half of that to the maker, and we're going to have a super ambassador program on top of that. So you have to understand that it's not about, making money. It's not about not thinking we're going to be profitable and screwing over everyone in the ICO. We're not screwing over everyone in the ICO with a plan to make the company more profitable, which in the end will make the token more valuable. Again, if you're short-sighted and short-termed, you're going to get screwed because of your own investing mentality has nothing to do with our decisions. If you're only looking at the short term, you will quote unquote screw yourself. It's not, well, you don't need any help from us to do that. Again, the way, look, when you're a company with shares, and these aren't shares, don't get me wrong, they are tokens. But when you're a company with shares and your onus is to the shareholder, your only job is to make the company worth more money, so that the shares are worth more money. That is the goal. Your goal is not to, oh my God, let's not make a B-class share and give it to this billion-dollar investor so we can take his money and actually make more profit for our shareholders, because our shareholders may think that B-class share is going to dilute them, and then they'll all be pissed off, and our Telegram's going to get really angry. Trust me, that has never come up in a board meeting anywhere in the history of the world, and it never will. And I hate to be the bearer of truth, but the truth is that my goal is to make my shareholders, and then to an extent our token holders, happy by making my company worth more money. And if I need more money to do that, so be it. And I can guarantee you, we will need more money. Doesn't matter how profitable we are out the gate. It's meaningless. Even if we had Binance's profit day one, we had 200 million in profit sitting in the bank, we would still get more money. Do you know why? Because when you have 200 million, you invest a majority. You start to look for acquisitions. You begin to see acquisitions that you need or want to expand into a certain part of the world that you can't afford, or that you can't risk 100 million on because you only have 200 million. So now you have to leverage that between loans, and you have to leverage your risk. All these things are commonplace in any business of the world. And we run a business. This isn't a project. So if we were a project, maybe I'd agree with you. We're not. We're a business, and businesses need money, unfortunately. That's it. And ICO, the reason why businesses are looking at ICO, it is free money with no equity obligation. You'd be an idiot not to take that or expand your possibilities down that route as much as you could. And that's the truth. And no other CEO will tell you that, I guarantee. No, well, in the ICO space, they wouldn't even know how to say it. But even in real terms, you'll never have a CEO tell you what I just told you. But every CEO knows it. They all know it, or they should know it. If they don't, they shouldn't be in that position. Okay, so number 4, same type of question. I'm going to read it just to see if there's nothing I need to topic. But why is another flash sale necessary? You set a very generous funding goal for a startup. Met that goal and yet have not completed the tasks. Would be done with that funding. Not sure that's exactly true, but I'll move on and continue reading. There is no feasible reason why you would call for another sale. I think I've covered this question, hopefully, and hopefully you were listening to the previous answer. The only thing I can say is I've never read a book about like corporate finance or anything. You might find that interesting. I've read a lot of articles, read a lot of things, but I've never read like one of these books that people, I see a lot, on LinkedIn and sometimes on Facebook, like, I read this book and it changed my life, bro. And it's like, I don't know, the history of corporate America or something like that. I don't read those books. I'd rather experience it than read it. And I've experienced some of it, and through networks, I've experienced a whole lot more. And what I can tell you is that you probably need to read one of those books to fully understand why. I guess I would agree with you, it's not necessary, because we're going to launch regardless, whether we do a flash sale or not. We're going to launch, we'll have a product, and we will launch that product. We'll launch that product with probably maybe 2 licenses, possibly Australia, Estonia, maybe even into the UK, depending on how it goes in the time schedule. But that limits us. And when you can get more funds and be unlimited to a certain extent, there's no reason not to do it, especially when that money is free. And again, that might sound, I don't know what it sounds like. It could sound, pompous or ridiculous or greedy, I don't know. But let me put it to you this way. To be a good CEO in this world, in this capitalistic world we live in, whether you're an NGO, even if you work for an NGO, nonprofit group, whatever, you need to be a bit greedy. And I don't say that from a personal standpoint. I say that from, you need to be greedy for your company. You need to do what you need to do to make sure that your company survives. And sometimes that makes you portrayed as greedy, or gets you portrayed as an asshole, or whatever. But the world needs assholes, unfortunately. And sometimes that's how you're viewed. But again, the clear goal is to make sure that you guys make money. I want that token price to go to highs and see extremes. And the only way to do that is to make sure that the company is well-funded, is in every possible region it can be, and does it as fast and as nimble as possible. And you can't do that with 12 million euro. You can't. 12 million euros sounds like a lot of money. To me, it's a lot of money. 12 million euros is a lot of money. But in business, in a scalable, financial, regulated business, it's peanuts. Peanuts. One bank, one small mid-cap bank, will spend $50 million on compliance in 1 year. We have 12 million to go into multiple countries, not only on compliance, but operations. It's peanuts. Number 5, Yojo, I think. What's the point of an AMA if no one can properly answer the questions asked? Good one, Joe. All right, well, if I haven't properly answered a question, I would invite you to run an AMA next week and answer these questions properly, and then we'll compare notes. Having said that, I don't think you've ever watched this is the first time I've seen your name, so maybe you've never watched one. Maybe you just wanted to see if I'd answer this question. But look, I'd never say I'm the smartest guy. Well, in the room right now, maybe I'm the only one in the room. So I'm the smartest guy in the room right now. I can testify to that one. But most of the time, I wouldn't say I was. I'd rather be the dumbest guy in the room. That means that wow, we're probably gonna race to the moon and get Lambos and, you know, I don't know, wear like bling bling jewelry and dance all day in the office. But yeah, Joe, if you think my answers are inadequate, I give you 2 suggestions. 1 is stop watching, and 2 is please ask me a stupid question so I can answer it properly. Number 6, Wyvern Keeper. Apologies if this has been previously covered, but does CoinMetro have any plans to translate and market towards the Chinese, Russian, and Korean crypto communities? Yes, plans for sure. We've been looking for translators. We used some during our ICO process. We're not going to use them again. We're looking for professional ways to do this and make sure that over time it stays professional, and probably do some of it in-house. So yes, for sure. Chinese, Russian, Korean, all on. I don't want to say roadmap because let's just not say that word anymore. But yeah, all in the plans for sure. Number 8 out of 9. So just 2 more guys to answer here, guys, and we should have hopefully 10 minutes on these live questions. Oh, the name is pronounced Trader Kelbell. Trader Kelbell. There you go. Following up on Robin's question about the state of the market, will ever increasing? I think that Robin's question. Did I miss Robin's question? Oh no, Robin's question. Oh no, we actually have more questions. Uh-oh, guys. We'll see what happens here. Maybe I'll delay my call a bit. So I'm going to read Robin's question first because I guess it makes sense. What do you like, dislike? This is Robin Timmerman. What do you like, dislike about the current state of crypto? And if crypto was big in 2010 as it is now, would you have gone into crypto instead of Forex? What do I like, dislike most about the current state of crypto? If I don't look at it from a commercial regulatory aspect, I like the possibility of decentralization. I like the possibility of a kind of a shift of wealth from powers that be into normal people's pockets, and the shift of power. Now, if I put my commercial and kind of 100% reality hat on, what I like about crypto is that we're on the cusp of kind of a change in how people conceptualize money. And that generally happens only every couple thousand years. The way people conceptualize different industries can happen over 100 years, and every 10 or 20 years you get a bit of a push in the direction that you're heading. However, the conception of money, what money is, how we use it, and what people would define as money doesn't happen but more than once every couple thousand years. Sometimes 1,000 years, it depends. But for us to go from, let's say, material objects, seashells, salt, etc., as our form of currency, and we move into coined and paper currency, and then you can even add in there something like a fractional reserve where we really went to air as currency, and now we're getting into this digital realm. You know, not many people experience this. Not many people in the world, in the history of the world, have experienced these types of changes, so I kind of feel special to be part of it. And I think we can truly get to a point where this is transformational, where it does, I mean, we're already screwing up some of that. The fact that ICOs now are basically all vehicles for VCs and institutional money and syndicates, I hate that word, by the way, kind of makes me upset. Kind of makes me want to punch somebody in the face, to be honest. I mean, it's quite ridiculous that so quickly this utopian idea of, yay, everybody has power, and then, oh boy, we're going to get money from this VC, let's take it, is just cheap. It's just it's super cheap and kind of ridiculous. But that's where we are now. I do hope that that tends to change, but I think tokenization of assets and things can really change access to markets. It can really change people's futures, to be honest, because and being able to invest in stocks and gain equity in companies is one way that the wealthy have always remained wealthy, and it's one reason why the poor have always remained poor. So we can really change the world, and I think that's one of the biggest aspects. So I'm going to run back up to this question here by Trader Kelbell. Following up on Robin's question about the state of the market, will ever-increasing bearishness, are you ever concerned about future profitability for the company? If crypto, especially Ether, remains in a downtrend for an extended time, can you afford to keep the lights on? Once we go operational, the price of Ether, Bitcoin in general, is almost meaningless. We make money based on trade volume. So if somebody was going to buy 100, let's say 10K worth of Bitcoin today, which is, let's say 1.3, 1.4, 1.5 Bitcoin, whatever, 1.6 Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin goes to 100K, well, they're going to buy 0.1 Bitcoin. It doesn't change anything. We make money on volumes. Volumes will remain as long as there's interest to buy. So as long as hype continues for now, and then off of hype we get adoption through institutional and then retail banks, and then that flows out. So no, the bearishness of the market. No, you can look at look at the euro. You can look at the euro. You can look at the U.S. dollar. There are periods where you'll see. Look at the Swiss franc, but you can look at the euro and see. The euro touched I think 1.05 about a year and a half ago. Everybody was saying it was going to go to par with the U.S. dollar. That didn't happen. Now it's back exactly where it was. It took about a year and a half for that to happen. Those cycles happen all the time. This happens in regular markets as well, more normalized markets. The bearishness of this market right now is meaningless to me, 100%. It means something, however, before we launch because we have less money in the bank. But as I said, we already have commitments. If we need money, money's there. And also we have the option for another quick flash sale if need be. Again, no decision taken there. But so no, it doesn't generally worry me. And from a business standpoint, once we're operational, it's almost meaningless. If there is a flash sale, can U.S. contributors buy? Good question. Probably not. Under some type of PPM, Reg D, probably accredited. I can't really answer that on unaccredited right now. The fact that we'd be almost operational would raise the risks for us. So probably not unless you're accredited. Or does the solution for us to keep our tokens involve a chance for U.S. contributors to obtain additional tokens? The solution basically involves a couple loopholes melded together that allows us to basically transfer those assets to you outside of what would be considered an ICO sale, which then falls outside of the guise of the SEC. That's about the most information I can give you, but it wouldn't mean that you could acquire more, unfortunately. Matt's a boss. Hey, Kevin, how will the intermediate exchange work in the market if I want to trade through is very illiquid and I want to buy, sell a large amount? Will there be some sort of warning, or will the pair be disabled on the exchange if there is not enough liquidity? If you send an order, just like on any normalized platform, let's say you want to buy 1 million and there's only 300,000, if you're sending a certain type of order, a market order, for example, IOC market order, immediate or cancel, which is basically your standard market order, you would basically get a partial fill. You would end up getting whatever's available, and the rest would be canceled. If it's a limit order, partial limit order, that partial of that limit order would fill, the rest of the limit order would sit on the book, meaning that you would get filled for 300,000 of that million, and an order for 700,000 would remain on the book at the price you're looking for. So yes, there would be, I guess you would be warned. You could also choose to do an FOK order, which is fill or kill, which means I want 1 million. If you don't have it, don't fill it. And then basically you would see the price get hit, and you would get an error in your journal or your log that basically says not enough margin to fill, or not enough liquidity to fill, and that would happen until there was enough liquidity. There's also different types of order types we will put in that will be able to sweep the book. IOC is one of those, but sweeping the book basically means that there's not enough liquidity at the price at the top of the book, but there is at the price at the bottom of the book. You would sweep through the entire book until you filled that whole order. Would you consider changing the names of the trading interface and the exchange? At the moment, the terms are quite ambiguous, in my opinion, perhaps CoinMetro and CoinMetro Pro. I wouldn't use CoinMetro Pro because it's not for professionals. I think people are misunderstanding what the trade. It's for more professional traders, maybe, I guess you could say. It's not for professional. Professional traders are not going to trade at CoinMetro or Binance or Bitfinex. There are no professional traders trading at those venues. I know maybe I'm upsetting someone right now watching this who thinks they're a professional trader. I apologize. You're not. Professional traders do not trade. They do not click trade. They don't click buttons to get in trades. They do so through APIs. They do so through, and some of them do click. I take that back when it's a desk or when they need to mitigate risk. But they don't day trade by clicks. And they're not going to do so on a platform that's only web-based, that doesn't have a desktop version, when they can't connect with an Ethernet connection, with a backup dial-up connection through a desktop platform that's more stable. It just doesn't happen. So the point of CoinMetro is to take you on a journey. We take you from zero through an academy. We brand you into the brand. You become part of the brand. We take you onto your first buy and sell opportunity on the Simplex exchange. We then push you out to this intermediate exchange. You get to know what order types are. You get to know how they work. You make a few other exchanges. Then you graduate up to the trading interface where you're able to do more sophisticated trading, understand how charting works, start to understand technical indicators, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That doesn't mean you're a professional. That means you're a professional retail client, let's say. On the backside, we will have options for APIs and for access, big block traders, et cetera. That will be more institutional. But that's not what we're going for with any of our GUIs. Changing the names, I think the word exchange at some point will change. Like I mentioned in the beginning, an exchange is an exchange. It's lazy to call a crypto exchange an exchange. It's not what, it's a broker, to be honest. But they are exchanges to a certain extent now because they do list tokens. Only an exchange will end up listing at some point. So you'll have to be in exchange. So yes, I think the exchange might change. Trading, I don't know. I think it kind of defines it quite well. The difference between exchange is usually it's one-off. Trading means you're holding. Trading means that you're in and out. That you're doing more volumes. But perhaps, I'm not saying they couldn't. They very well could. At the moment, the focus is on the front end. But what about the back end? Back end is being worked on simultaneously. We're obviously not so focused on the prettiness of the back end for us, our admin back end, because we could care less if it's pretty. It just needs to be functional. When margin trading, so margin trading obviously is going to happen after we launch. I can't give you a date on that because I haven't talked to our dev staff in a bit about margin trading. The big thing about margin trading is controlling our own risk and the risk of those lending swap. Those are conversations that are ongoing right now. Next week, I'll try to give you more of an accurate an update. But it will be something that is the moneymaker for us. One of the biggest moneymakers is margin trading. Obviously, people will trade on leverage, and that means 10 to 20 to 30 to 50 times more volume. So it is a key aspect for us, but we need to make sure we get the exchange and zero leverage correct before we institute margin. We have done this already, and really margin trading is margin trading. So I do expect it to be a quite quick development. The big thing is the risk and the rule engine, which is we're already working. We actually had a board meeting. One of our first official board meetings lasted 5 hours this week on a Monday. It was a brutal Monday. Oh, Tuesday, Wednesday. It was Wednesday actually, where we discussed this. When will limits? What will the limits by credit card depositing be, or what deposits are? That's going to be stipulated by the credit card gateway. We actually met with an acquirer today that's going to allow us to acquire. Through the bank account, we just got ourselves into in Estonia for client funds. That means Euro SEPA through an actual retail bank in the Eurozone as of now. We will also acquire through that bank. So we need to see what they're going to set as limits initially. We also need to check with the regulator, and the regulator, more than likely, I think we'll probably see limits initially of probably 5 to 10K on credit cards per transaction, and possibly some limit per month, and that will change over time. But that depends on the company that allows us, or the bank that's allowing us to run the transaction. International mix. I think I remember you saying previously that you feel that 2018 will be losing year for crypto, leading in 2018 as well. Assume this is still the case. Therefore, we might see less users signing up for the exchange, perhaps less volume. Once the bull market returns, assuming it will, are you confident that CoinMetro will be able to handle the spike in onboarding new users, expanding trading volumes, etc., that damage the reputation? Obviously, that's the goal, and that's some scalability. We always try to build in scalability. I think you're looking at this the wrong. A bear market does not mean less volume. There is no correlation between bear market and less volume. Bear market generally could mean more volume. It means cheaper prices, more ability to buy. People are selling, obviously, in a bear market. We make money when people sell as well as they buy. I think a lot of people make this mistake. I could care less about a bear market from an exchange broker perspective. It's meaningless. I don't care if Bitcoin went to $40 tomorrow and we were live, we would have a ton of volume. I can guarantee you. First on the sales side, and there would be a ton of people buying into those people selling. Mostly on the institutional or smarter retail side, but there would be buys all the way down as the price dropped. The volume would be huge. So the bear market doesn't scare me. I could care less. Bear, bull, doesn't matter. From a personal perspective, I hold Bitcoin, Litecoin. Obviously, I'd love to see a bull market in that aspect. But from the just day-to-day aspect, don't care at all. But yes, we are building in, and one of the points is to build in scalability. And we're doing that. We're going to have a staff that could probably handle 100,000 clients before we have one actual trading. We're going to have built-in protocols that can handle much more volume. Our fixed protocols already can handle more volume than I think most exchanges do, regardless, especially real volume, not wash-traded volume. So yes, from the get-go, we're building for the future, and we will always update for the future. You never want to get into a position where you're updating for today. Kevin, this is Ivolshi. Kevin, I want to meet the developers in a live stream and see the ticketing system, the tasks, the distribution into sprints, progress, intermediates, effort estimation, burn down chat, and which tickets are overdue. That's a nice ask. I would never release our sprints because obviously they hold proprietary information, so that's going to be an impossible one. I guess I could release with a bunch of blurry screens, but that wouldn't be transparent. And on this fact, it's just something that we can't do for sure. Meet the developers. Right now, that's not going to be possible. Once we launch, probably. Why not now? Well, we have too much to do. They have too much to do. And they're in different parts of the world and they're not in one place. So it becomes a bit of an issue. And to take an hour away from them or even 20 minutes away from them can kill a whole day or 2 days worth of work. And that's not something I'm willing to do. I'm into transparency, and at some point we will do something similar to this, I am sure. We will not release proprietary information. We will not show exactly every single task that is due inside the company. Again, it's priority. We are working on things that no one else is doing, and it's not something we will want others to know about, basically for commercial reasons. But I get your point, and I get your point is, with saying it nicely, is I don't believe anything's going on, and you guys are all sitting around twiddling your thumbs. And I guess the best way that we can conquer that thought process is once we release and you see what we've been doing and you see how it works. I don't think that question would come up. And I understand why it is there. And I probably would ask the same thing if I was on the other side. Just know that that type of transparency will come, or at least portions of that transparency, but it has to come when it makes sense from our side. And right now it doesn't make sense because, as you know, we're late for a very important date, as the White Rabbit would say. Yeah, we need to make sure we get back on time, and that's not going to help us doing that, unfortunately. And Robin, I already covered your question. So it's literally 6 o'clock. We have a phone call right now with a liquidity provider. I'm going to let our newly minted banking and liquidity manager. That's not the right title. I just destroyed his title. But I'm gonna let Kurt jump on that for the first 5 minutes, maybe, so I can answer 2 or 3 of these questions. He just gave me the eyeballs from across the room, so or we'll just delay the call. Maybe we can send a quick email and they'll wait 5 minutes for us. I just want to cover a few of these questions because I noticed a few that looked a little enticing. So we have Impede 83, when beta? By the end of September, live beta. That's the plan right now. Juan Alberto, please confirm and explain a little bit how we can place at the same time a buy order and a sell order. That's basically, our platform will allow the ability to hedge. So there's nothing to explain, really. You can place a buy order and a sell order at the same time, period. What we do on our side, it's obviously netted in real life, meaning once you open a buy and a sell for the same price, you have no open position. But since you're netted, your P&L is only adjusting based on spread. So the risk on our side can be mitigated by hedging on our side, which we will do. So from your aspect, it's just like you just open a buy and sell order. There's no from our aspect, it's just very basic. How do I run a broker kind of 1.0 on how we do that, and it's just basically allowing for a visual hedge. Anti-utopia, investor's dream is a high ROI. How is XCM designed? What do you think can XCM reach, let's say $20? Sure, an investor dream is a high ROI. Everybody dreams about high ROIs. As I said in some of these other answers, what you need to think about is once this market matures, we're going to start seeing token prices tie into the values of companies. So the way to get XCM to $20 a token is to make sure that CoinMetro has a value of, let's see, we have 327 million tokens. So you can do the math. That means in excess of 7.44 billion would be a valuation that would get us to 20 per token. That may seem very high, but if you compare that to the valuation of a similar company in a different market, which would be an exchange or a multi-asset broker that also caters, well, I guess there's really nothing to compare it to, but if we compare it to, I guess the thing you compare it to is a mid-cap bank. That's what I would compare it to. A regional mid-cap bank, 7 billion is not that large of a valuation. Plus, you have to understand that most of the time, stocks, for example, are valued at X times actual valuation. So realistically, once we hit probably close to a 700 million valuation or somewhere in that realm, we would probably see a token price of around that. For hype, well, we need a lot of hype. We need a lot of hype, a lot of people using us and a lot of volume. We were not going to do wash trading, so it will take us time to build up volumes that you see, let's say, on Binance, because those volumes don't exist in the current market. Real volumes in the current market are quite smaller than what you see on those top exchanges. Ginger Croc. Any thoughts on Elon Musk's risky tweet about going private? And do you find that you're having to be more and more careful with your own thoughts in a public setting? Yeah, the bigger soapbox you have, the more careful you have to be. I don't have that big of a soapbox yet, so I can go off the rails a bit, pun intended. That was a pun. Whoever wrote that pun thing in the question, that was a pun. So just write that down, take notes. What I think, I like Elon Musk. And I think he's proven in the past that he can say things that other people can't and gets away with it. He's still kind of a darling in the tech space. And in the SEC, to be honest, the SEC likes Elon Musk. I can guarantee you that. So I think he probably gets away with it. Other people would not be able to get away with that type of comment. I think he speaks his mind. I think what he says, he probably knows best what's best for his company, I would hope. I would hope his shareholders think the same. You should never invest in something if you don't believe in the guy at the top, because if you do, you're making a mistake. That doesn't mean you shouldn't question him. You should always question, but you should also have some trust in what's done. So yeah, you have to be careful. You do have to be careful. Some of the things I want to say, trust me, I don't. There's a lot of times I want to say lots of things, and I hold myself back from saying them in a public setting because you have to. That's the world we live in. You don't want to step on your own 2 feet for sure. Gustavo, I love your blatant style of telling the truth. ICOs as free money and also constant need of money to growing companies. Yep, well, Gustavo, that is the truth. Anybody that tells you different is a liar, period. Last question, where is Robin? I think Robin's on vacation, actually, but he did put some questions into to Reddit. So we got a few Robin questions on Reddit. Kuno, can you update us on the status of the prepaid card? Will it be ready by release of the platform? So I told you we were dealing with 2 companies. One company is quite overpriced, but they already have a product in the market. Second company has yet to have a product in the market. They don't have the same high pricing, and they have a better market reach and better APIs. This company uses a Railsbank's platform, which we will use. So the point is that I do think that for the launch of the platform, which is the end of September, it's going to be difficult. And the reason is that we chose to do this Railsbank option, but we have to prove to the distributor of MasterCard. Oh, I see, there's something you shouldn't have said. See, you led me to say something I shouldn't say. The distributor of the platform that issues the card, that we're not a high risk. And that requires a risk assessment, and that takes a little bit of time, longer than a normal application. But I do think we're going to be on track for what is in the current roadmap. Jet Fuel 2, what was the big news you had? The news, yeah. I gave a little bit of news, and I totally missed it because now I have 4 minutes, guys, more or less, and I got to get out of here. So, news. We were officially onboarded in Estonia by a bank here in Estonia. Can't release the name, unfortunately. For client funds and operational funds in Euro, in the SEPA zone, 100% onboarded, green light. Also with the ability to have an acquiring account, which we're going through the process of actually. So that's not 100% the area that, but we're getting there to accept credit and debit card deposits worldwide. That's one piece of news. The other piece of news is that by the end of September, we're dealing with a liquidity provider that we've dealt with for years in the FX space that is going to be providing to us on a very professional platform we've already used and integrated with over the years. The five majors that we're going to start with: Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, Ethereum, Ripple, against Euro, US dollar, pounds, Japanese yen. So we will have up to 500 Bitcoin in liquidity on every single inside the book at any one time. Probably it depends on the spreads, on how deep you'll have to go to get that 500 Bitcoin. As an example, on all of those crosses across all those major fiat currencies from probably day one launch of the live exchange. And I think that's big news. That's big news. We also already have funding available via wire transfer, etc., and different mechanisms for all of those currencies. So that means clients will be able to deposit, trade, and withdraw in a multitude of fiat currencies backed by up to 500 BTC worth of depth on the book at any one time. Harold, the CoinMetro listings guidebook is only mentioning companies. Are there different rules for nonprofit organizations when list a token? Somewhat different. There's also rules for people who create their own blockchain, which we will publish shortly, which will include rules on the bar for the tech. The tech is going to have to be up to a certain bar. We're going to have to be able to stress test it, etc. But yes, it'd be very similar for nonprofits because we're still going to want to do background checks. We're still going to want to check, et cetera, et cetera. We want to make sure that this person's been involved in other types of organizations, that they know how to run an organization. We're going to want to see what the organization does. We're going to see some transparency and proof, some audit of how they're actually going to be giving away this money, et cetera, et cetera. We want to make sure we don't get involved with frauds, basically. So there still will be a very holistic approach. Harold, I think it needs to be tailored. It will, like I said, it will be tailored, but it's going to be similar. It has CM logo on black t-shirt. Yeah, well, I have black, white, turquoise, and purple. So today you got the black one. Next Friday I'll make sure I wear another one. So my apologies. So, all right, guys, I got to run. We got a call with a liquidity provider who also, by the way, is offering USD and Euro crosses. So we may be able to increase that 500 BTC by a bit, maybe up to 800 BTC. We will see. So I'm off for now. Thank you, guys. As I always say, spend time with your family. Do something special over this weekend. Don't make life all about work, but get enough work done so that you can actually have a life. If you can figure out that ever-growing puzzle of life. Have a great weekend. See you guys next week. I will try to jump on Telegram for a bit at some point this weekend if I have some time. And see you guys next Friday. Really big news this week. Please digest that news because it's huge. It really is huge. It's something that the big players have yet to be able to do. And we did without even launching yet. And I think that speaks volume for what's going on behind the scenes. It's not always what you see topically from a company. That's usually the iceberg. It's the tip. What you don't see is really, really what's powering the engine of this train. And I think that speaks volumes for those two news pieces. So anyway, guys, running now. Talk to you guys next week. Have a great weekend. See ya.